All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is the second part of my How to Play Daily Fantasy Football tutorial. I'm your host, J-Rod. You can hit me at JRodDFS on the Twitters. I got in front of me a very tasty rice lager. About 5.2% on this bad boy. Another local brand. Boys at Cerebral hooking it up. Little paper lantern. Anyway, let's dive right into it. So one of the things I didn't cover yesterday in the first cash tutorial is tight end. The reason why is because tight end is oftentimes an afterthought, with a few pay-up exceptions. Obviously, you've got your Kelces and your Kittles and what have you. Oftentimes, you want to pay down at tight end on a cash game. Just look for a guy who is going to get you that 3x minimum, right? So again, if I'm paying $4,400 for Taysom Hill, right? 3x is going to be what, ladies and gentlemen? Quick maths, 13.2. So what does this guy got to do for 13.2? He's got to catch a touchdown, and he's got to catch 5-6 other passes, 4 passes, depending on how far. He might not be the best play, actually, because he's a little crafty. You look at a guy who's a good guy here. You look at a guy like Cooper was last year. You look at a guy, you got the Gronkinator in there. We'll see what happens. I feel like someone's going to sneeze on him this year, and he's going to break. I have to go back to wrestling. I kind of look around the middle of the range here. Kyle Rudolph, there's a cat right there. Someone who's going to see a few checkdowns, and again, you got to correlate with your lineup. So if you've got a pocket passer, right, and he's playing against a team with a high defensive pressure rating, well, then chances are he's going to check down more to his tight ends and his backs, right? So then that's a good play. If he's a cheaper play, because he's going to get 4 or 5, extra targets. Maybe he catches 3 of them for, you get that 10% of the yards they get. You get a point on DraftKings. So you're really just looking for someone like that who's going to have a few here and there, maybe one good seam, and then a lot of red zone targets, like a lot of these tight ends do, right? Because they catch that one touchdown, there's 7 points. 1 point for the catch, 6 for the touchdown, 0.2 for the yards or whatever, depending on where they are in that red area. So that's the way you roll with cash lineup oftentimes. You can pay up and sacrifice in other places if there's enough value that you can find in running back or wide receiver. Essentially, tight end, bit of an afterthought there. Certainly important to pick the right tight end, but usually there's 3 or 4 at each price range that are worthwhile, so it's a little bit easier to get the math right on those guys. Moving along to tournament strategy. One of the most important things about tournaments is picking the right one to play. We were kind of talking about that in the last video. Obviously, the Millie Maker is a lot of fun, not necessarily the best odds. But, like for Thursday, for example, tomorrow, we have a $10 buy-in on a millionaire, pay out $1 million top prize for DraftKings. And that's fun, I have one lineup in there. I'm going to play. I don't expect to win anything, but it'll be fun. It's the NFL, it's back. Da-da-da-da, right? Ba-da-ba-da, do-do-do-do-do. Who isn't excited for the NFL? We don't have shit going on right now. It's fucking snowing out right now. It was 100 degrees in Colorado like 2 days ago, and it snowed yesterday. Anyway, so what we're going to do with tournaments is we're going to focus more on our stacks and correlation. So the previous tutorial we were talking about how Matty Ice and Russ Wilson are facing off, right? They're both around the same price point. The other thing that you're really going to come into factor here, I guess, is ownership projections, right? So ownership projections inform you as to what the field more or less is going to have. The tool I'm using right here is Draft Dashboard. They did work out a deal with me, which was nice of them, to allow all of you to access this nice piece of software for $1 for 30 days. So if you want, you can use the affiliate links that I link below. Not only will you have access to the projections and They have a nice feature on them called the hit percentage that shows you how often these guys hit value at the price point they're at, things like that. But you can use the fantasy optimizer to create better lineups that way. It basically just saves you a lot of time and research. It's all kind of it's in the computer. Who's seen Zoolander? Anyway, so yeah, that's nice. And then also as an add bonus through my affiliate link, they're going to allow you to access my player pool. So that's $1 for 30 days, draft dashboard. Way to go, guys. Way to hook it up. Give me something to give y'all some value. The player pool, you'll go to watch J-Rod DFS's picks, and then you can see basically the entire player pool that I'm using to pull lineups out of through the optimization software. Basically, I just set a player pool based on who I see as being viable for their price point and their matchup. All right, so let's look at this stack. Right, we got Wilson, we got Ryan. One of the things that's nice about them, they are a little bit more expensive at the QB position, but what's nice about these two guys is they have a very narrow set of targets that they funnel most of their production to, and this game has a higher implied total. So, Vegas expects these guys to shoot out. Matt Ryan's got his two guys, right? He's got Jones and he's got fucking Ridley. I gotta stop swearing, they'll demonetize me. Not like I'm gonna get money for this anyway. But Russell Wilson has his two guys. He's got Lockett, who's kind of his down the field kind of throwing bombs. And then he's got DK Metcalf, who was the number one targeted wide receiver in the red zone last year. So it makes sense. You go with it maybe a little bit cheaper, go with Matt Ryan. He'll probably be less owned on that stack. He'll probably be playing from behind more. I don't want to make assumptions, but I just think that Seattle's a more complete team right now. It's too hard to say without preseason, but based on the resume from last year. So maybe you take Matty Ice and you take Julio. You take a tight end, or you take Ridley instead of Julio. However you mix that up based on the ownership projections and what fits into your lineup. And then coming back, you take DK. Or maybe you take Lockett because he's way less owned, or maybe you take two of those guys and you just, flip it and take Russell. However you want to do it, and then you take Jones coming back because he's going to be the down the field threat more often. So now you got yourself a nice little game stack, right? You can build your lineup around that. We'll look at halfbacks, right? We're going to try and find halfbacks going to see 20, 25 touches a game, at least two of them. Maybe you throw a third in your flex. But differentiation in tournaments is super important. So maybe you want to differentiate by playing two tight ends. If there's a good value tight end you think is going to see a lot of red zone activity because of an injury or something, or you could just do what I do. Pick that guy, pick that lower priced running back who's going to get handed the ball, 8 to 10, 12 times, and he's going to probably see about 8 or 9 targets in the passing game, has some, red zone upside there. Do something like that. Defense and special teams. Don't pick a defense against a team that you're playing their running back, right? Like if you're playing, if the Patriots are playing Miami and you've got Miami's running back or you got their wide receivers, then don't be picking Miami's defense or New England's defense, because basically those are conflicting correlations. If you think a team's going to score on a team a bunch, why would you play the defense that's going to get scored on a bunch? Then it's going to get you negative points. It gets you nowhere. The Patriots defense probably would have been a good pick. Might still be. I'll have to look a little bit closer. Any defense against Fitzmagic is probably not a bad call because that dude is as likely to throw 4 picks as he is 4 touchdowns. I know New England lost a lot of people to the Rona, but Bill is when it comes to picking defensive players out of nowhere, he'll just walk down the aisle at Walmart and pull 2 guys out and make them all pros by the end of camp. Granted, there was no camp, but yeah, I don't know what that team's going to look like. That was the team I grew up rooting for when they were terrible. I grew up in Massachusetts, so Everyone hates me on that, but hey, man, I had a birthday party at the old Foxborough. Metal benches, everyone's crying because we're getting blown out by the Bengals. Like, they were just absolute joke of the league until I moved away from Massachusetts. And so now I'm not allowed to come back. Anyway, let's look at some other things you want to look at for tournaments. I mean, really, that's the main thing. Is you want to look at ownership. You want to build your stacks and make sure they correlate with each other correctly. If you think the Patriots with Cam are going to be blowing out Miami and Fitzmagic, yeah, play their defense. The Patriots defense will probably be middle to middle higher. Let's look, see what they're. There will be opportunity for sacks and interceptions. Yeah, they're one of the higher ones, but they're not egregious. I bet they're really popular though, so maybe that steers people away, especially with Baltimore right under. Although caution on playing Baltimore's defense. Look, these guys had that Baltimore 360 nonsense where they were filming all the coaches and defensive signals, and they had that guy standing behind, the coach of Baltimore last year with the earpiece. All that was very shady business, and as soon as the media started talking about it a little bit, it stopped, and their defense all of a sudden wasn't nearly as good. So, who knows what's going on there, but in any event, I cannot wait to hear the comments of a Patriots fan talking about. But you know damn well if New England had that thing going on, it'd be a gate, there'd be draft picks. I mean, it'd be the whole thing. Let's look down here and see. Yeah, it's kind of tough. I mean, you could pick the Lions. Their defense will probably be very low, and that'd be like a shot. And I only say that because Mitch Trubisky is garbage. He's just absolute garbage. And a lot of people are going to own him this week because he's cheap. But that dude is. I mean, the fact that why does that guy still have a job? I mean, basically, we're gonna have our game stacks, and we're gonna look at defense as an afterthought. Throw in a tight end, maybe. Halfbacks can be independent of each other. And hope for the best on that entry. Again, you can subscribe my page. That would be sweet. It does cost you nothing. It helps me out a lot. I'm trying to grow this thing over the next year or two. Keep this hobby going. Maybe one day I'll make some money off of it, and I can not have to work so hard for the man. But for the time being, I appreciate y'all. Please like and subscribe. Like I said, thank you very much. There'll be links below for the draft dashboard. Hook up there, $1, 30 days. Get to try that stuff, see all my picks, get access to all this projections and stuff. And may the goddess of fortune smile upon you. Thanks, guys. Cheers. Until next time.